for those who practice any art form. I'm talking art, whether it's drawing, painting, ballet, anything. Understanding the context is so very important. You learn so much about yourself by attending to other people's needs.
Hey guys, how's it going? John here with the Mobile Human Experience, and today we will be continuing our series called Active Reason. Now, Active Reason is basically a type of intellectual thought process that will ultimately lead you to a universal truth, or your own truth that can be universal, I guess. And so there's a little bit of play on words here because it's not just an intellectual pursuit, but we're also talking with people who do some type of movement training, right? Whether it's parkour or it's like our guest today, which will be Capoeira. And this guest, her name is Megha. Megha, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Thank you. How are you, John?
I'm doing well. So this is actually a very special episode because it is the first of a subset of the active reasons, like a subcategory of a subcategory. And the subset is called Women Who Move. So it's going to focus entirely on women who do any type of movement art, and to kind of get into their stories, as well as, hopefully seed some positivity with their personal truths.
Sounds great.
Does it sound good?
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
In a very brief nutshell, right now I'm living in just north of Austin, Texas, and I recently moved here after about 13 years in the San Francisco Bay Area, Palo Alto specifically, and I teach capoeira. I have a background in biology. I'm a scientist by trade, I guess, by training, but I decided to go into teaching movement and a fitness lifestyle full time. I always tell people this, that it's sometimes you can never be, there's no way you can predict how things turn out. So yeah.
The base story is that she was running a capoeira promo in Palo Alto, correct?
Yeah, I was just starting out to go full time, and I didn't know how to spread the word, so I was like, come take a free class in the park.
And so I came in, and then I saw that you were there with with another capoeirista.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I hope I said it right. And you're working in, and nobody showed up yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. The only problem was that I had to go to the bathroom. So the first thing I said, after finding a spot, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just went up to you and I was like, hey, I'm interested. I saw this thing on Facebook, but I have to go to the bathroom. Where's the nearest bathroom?
Always key when you organize events, know where the restrooms are.
You actually ended up teaching capoeira at my studio in Sunnyvale for a while after that.
Consistently for almost a couple years. So that was always such a, time flew. I did travel in that time, so I have to thank other teachers that were able to fill in for me. Yo-Yo, for example. Just that space was so consistent, so full of good energy, support from you.
Thank you.
I was so grateful.
So what initially got you into capoeira? Or movement?
Yeah, I'd first movement or capoeira, because I guess they're two different things.
They are. I'm a weird one where I just see everything as movement. So, segregate as you will. Okay,
to be fair, yeah, I mean, I've always been active since I was a little kid. I love sports and would try basketball. I really at 5 foot tall. I'm 5'2" now. I always wanted to be in the WNBA. I gave up that dream long ago, but I held on to it through high school. Played ball and then swam. I inline skated, still do. And so anything I could do to just move. I really enjoyed sports and playing them, not really following them. But when I saw capoeira for the first time was in college in undergrad at University of Illinois. And so the two things that were really important to me growing up movement and music. Nothing's changed. I'm still the same person in that way. So when I saw Capoeira demonstration, I was like, oh my gosh, it's everything I've always wanted to do in the same activity. So it was like a natural, like, it was inevitable almost. If I came across it and I knew I had to do it.
You are a person who likes to go off the beaten path. I'm pretty similar.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit about your journey off the beaten path?
What is the beaten path?
What is the path?
Yeah, what is the path, right? I was a really good student during high school and college, and so it was just a natural progression that you would, I started off pre-med, actually, like a lot of people, and slowly realized that I liked the biology part, but not so much the pre-med track. I had a hard time, like, choosing just one thing. And so I focused a lot in school and, talking about what that path was. It was like, oh, you go to school, you get a job, or you go to grad school and then you get a job. And it was all about a job and stability. But at the same time, you have to balance it with the cost to yourself and to your mind and your soul. And so it took me a while to figure that out, and I'm still figuring it out. I know a lot more than I did at that time because I've tried things. I don't regret things because I've just attempted it. And so after, kind of doing well in school, I was still burnt out. All I want to do is move to California. I grew up in the Midwest. I just had this dream of California. And so luckily, I was able to find my way there. I was kind of walking two paths simultaneously while I was there. I found Capoeira, continued training, not because I wanted to make it a career or anything. I just really loved it. It was everything I needed in an activity. It was a social life. It was art. It was dance. It was music. It was fitness. And again, a doorway into a portal into another world.
So in Capoeira itself, right, when you're practicing, when you're playing the music, when you're on that side of things, and also the communal value, what do you feel when you're engulfed in those?
Once you've been exposed to it long enough, there's a lot of specific etiquette that you follow. Very much like going to someone else's home, right? Like my home and your home might be a little bit different. Some people ask you to take your shoes off, some others. Same in Capoeira world. You learn how to navigate different people's homes or their different schools or academies. I think that the one aspect is about like feeling at home anywhere you are. And another one is because you get really good at like observing. You have to observe, otherwise you get called out. So
sounds like.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of humanization and social connection that happens and can be learned just by being a part of the community. I mean, each community is different, but it feels like you're almost a part of a family and you're learning how to connect with different families.
Yep, that's it.
If that's any.
That's basically it. It's a microcosm.
Wow, we hit it.
Yeah. It's a microcosm of, our world. Right?
I'm going to ask you to talk about two things. The first is basically your back and forth with one of your teachers on, what makes a good capoeira practitioner, capoeirista, and then so, and also, I mean, the very first day, I think about 2/3 of the way in, you came to the realization of what it is that you really felt with this, right? And what you want to bring out. So we'll get into that. But let's first talk about that first topic I was asking.
Sure.
First question.
Yeah. So what makes a good capoeira practitioner, capoeirista? So I was talking to my teacher's teacher, who's in Rio, in Brazil. And his name is Mestre Touro. He's, kind of a very big icon in the field, a pillar of like the capoeira in Rio. And so he was kind of sharing, I was asking him about some meanings of some songs, and then he was like, you sing this song when you're trying to show like that you're a good capoeirista. I'm like, okay, so what's a good capoeirista? And I was expecting him to like name a list of things that you should be able to do. And he's like, you need to be patient. Tem que ter paciência. I'm like, Oh, okay. This is a whole other level. And this is where the philosophy comes in. So capoeira has really deep philosophy that can be extended into real life, into all parts of life, right? And it's about being patient. In a small scale, you wait for an opening. You don't force your way into someone else's space. You wait for an opening. You let them open the door, and then, all right, you find the spot. But also in terms of training, right? Like you can't expect to do a movement form, an art form in general, and expect to snap your fingers and know a thing. You gotta like stick to it. And so I think on a short scale and a long scale, patience is definitely a very valuable thing to become good at anything. Loyal to your roots. And so I'm going to, like, I didn't have a chance to like really talk through these things, but these are 3 things that he told me. So the second one is loyal to your roots. When you understand where you come from, it gives you appreciation for what you're doing and why you're doing certain things. Certain things have more of an aesthetic value. Some of them are symbolic, and some of them are very, like, you know, mechanically awesome, right? So you need to know which ones fill each category and which ones maybe have multiple aspects to them. For those who practice any art form, I'm talking art, whether it's drawing, painting, you know, ballet, anything. Understanding the context is so very important. Point number 3 is humility. So, and I think, again, this is also a very universal value, right? For a person to be humble and know their place.
I'm sorry, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing your place, because that can be taken in a couple of different ways, right? And I think when I initially heard you say it, I'm like, oh gosh, that's very stringent and, you know, standard. But when I really delve into it, it goes along to something that I follow personally, where it's, where can you be the most useful? Where can you be the most helpful to the world and to the people around you? That's why I would see that being a expanded thought process. I don't know, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, actually, do you mind if I like kind of expand on that?
No,
right now?
do it. Okay. That's what this is about.
Yeah. So I think, knowing your place is kind of weird because the places aren't set, right? Sometimes it's imposed on us, especially as women. And so I've been studying with another teacher in Brazil. And the other day there was a conversation about how women sometimes are kind of limited from their, singing in the roda. So in a capoeira setting, the person leading or the person singing is kind of given a little bit of reverence. And that place is often, I don't know, kind of, it's coveted. Sometimes there's like an ego thing happen. I've never experienced it personally in a major way, but others have. And it's mainly from what I gather, I mean, it seems that men are telling women that they can't sing, even though they have beautiful voices. It's like, you have to sing a certain way or our voices are sometimes just not as loud and don't cut as much through a crowd of people. And sometimes that's held against us. I have a soft voice, and so I've strained my voice trying to cut over crowds. But again, so this has to do with like navigating the imposed place, and also what I think you've just mentioned, which is the place where you're most useful. And so we'll leave that other topic to the side for now, because it is a real issue, and I think that is a whole big conversation for another day. Again, being able to identify the things that you have to offer and be helpful. And I've noticed for myself, like, I have a way with kids. I have this really strong connection and genuine just enjoyment when I teach kids classes. And go figure, those are the classes for me that are thriving right now. I just absolutely love teaching kids capoeira. And
so awesome.
And I think that's what's being responded to right now. So
I mean, that's like the best place, right? Especially when you're talking about when you're talking about social interactions and human connection, and building that foundation, that's the best place to put it in, because that really sets the stage for, better people. And I'm gonna segue that into the purpose we were talking about the other day, right? Okay, let's have you speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. And I wonder if this might be kind of like a way for, all the parts of my training and upbringing and interests to come together in one spot, because I want to give as much of that information to people, and also promote a healthy lifestyle. That's a holistic thing, right? Like, it's not just about being fit physically, it's about being emotionally stable and healthy and being able to give to others. And I'll just make a quick comment about kind of the self-care movement has been exploding, right? Like, everything in the name of self-care. This idea of self-improvement. You learn so much about yourself by attending to other people's needs. I've just found that through the teaching. And I think that, as long as you're reflecting and asking yourself those hard questions, you get those opportunities to grow within yourself, as you're also encouraging other people to grow around you. So we grow together in a positive direction, I hope. This idea of purpose, I think everyone just kind of wants to feel fulfilled with their life, right? You don't want to look back and go, oh, I regret not trying X, Y, Z. And I definitely, I know that for sure. From a young age, I never wanted to regret anything. And I actively sought out ways to cross things off my mental, regret list, because I did not want to be stuck not doing it. Hence the rollerblading.
I
want to grind a rail. I want to drop into a half pipe. It's happening. It's gonna happen. So
it'll be awesome, because one of the other ladies that I'll be interviewing, she does parkour, tricking. Well, she's into a whole bunch of different movement things, but she's been a blader for years.
Awesome.
And so at some point I'm gonna connect you two.
That would be awesome.
Well, sooner than later I will, because she's always looking for more bladers, especially more female bladers that can rock it.
There's not too many out there, but they're coming up. They're coming up.
I think it is as well.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of good information here. You actually really met past my expectations of how this was going to go. So I'm really happy about that.
Cool.
Can you send us off with a final message on... I should stop moving my camera for a second. Can you send us off with a final message on what you would like to tell the world, or what have you, about what you do and what you hope people can learn from this interview?
Okay. That's no pressure at all.
No. There'll be more time.
Okay.
There'll always be more time.
Okay. Well, from this particular conversation that we talked about, I think if whoever you are, whatever you're pursuing, put yourself 100% into it, if that's something that's important to you. And, it doesn't really matter where you came from or what your background is, because you can make it happen if you're interested enough. There's enough resources out there to make it happen, especially nowadays. But, if you look at the things you're doing with your time, and you look at yourself, you look within yourself to identify what's valuable to you. How do you feel useful? How do you feel helpful and fulfilled?
Is there anything that you would like to finalize with this first possible interview?
I just wish you the best of luck. I'm really glad you're doing this, because women in this in fitness, it's hard. It's the competition is tough, and there's another whole aspect of fitness that is still vastly underrepresented, which is women's nutrition. So there's one person out there that I know, she's trying to put it up. She's doing a lot of work, Dr. Stacy Sims, and she's written a book. There are probably others, but again, I'm still looking for and researching things, because the things that we've been hearing about how we keep ourselves, how we give ourselves nutrition, is focused on men's physiology. So those things don't work with women's bodies. We have a different system. We have different hormones. We have a menstrual cycle. We have to be able to communicate about these things and train accordingly. So one thing that, gosh, I hope there are people out there that can join the movement. Maybe if I go back into researching science, I can focus in that area. Who knows? But that is definitely something that I think I want to highlight. If I could give a little more, boosting of anything, is that active women, be careful with what you may read out there, because it's usually focused on what men, and not only just men, but like obese men would have needed to do. So again, there's a lot of information out there, but you need to be able to like sort through it. So that's my whole women's angle, women's lives.